Hello,
Hi,
I'm Virginia.
I'm Bianca.
We are the Tinseltown Twins, and today we're just gonna show off some books from our collection. This isn't nearly all of them. We just picked some that we just wanted to show off.
And talk about because they influenced us.
Yes. First one for me, The Films of My Life by Francois Truffaut. I totally recommend picking this one up because you get it's the reviews he made, most of which are like essays before and reviews before he became a big director. It just shows like his filmmaker's eye and looking at things, and it also shows how broad his taste is, because he can talk about somebody like John Ford and somebody like Frank Tashlin in such detail, and it gives you a whole different perspective from movies. So, because I know a lot of people have already own Truffaut / Hitchcock, so Hitchcock / Truffaut. So this is The Films of My Life is definitely one if you want to dive more into Truffaut's eye for cinema. Right, one I'm sure a lot of you have picked up, Into the Dark, the TCM film noir book.
Got it at the MoMA.
Yep, got it at the MoMA. There's a lot of great noir books. This is definitely one of them, because I feel like a big part of what makes it great is you get reviews. And what I really like is letters from the regional owners, so people will say like, oh, this actor does really great here, these type of movies are good. It has some of them complaining about the content, but also I really like big, good-looking books, and this is just obviously a very nice looking book and nice and big, and not the only one like this I'll be showing. Alright, this is a sister book with one about women, but this one's Dangerous Men. So, as you can see, author of Complicated Woman, which there's also a documentary on. Definitely check that out. But this is all about pre-codes, and it talks all about mostly the actors and their screen personas from the pre-code era. So it dives into, like the CAD, like Warren William. There's a whole chapter on Richard Barthelmess, which I really liked because I like Richard Barthelmess a lot. And it's a good critical view of pre-codes from somebody who's looking at pre-codes all like in relation to each other, rather than just a modern critic that's like, oh, this is so dated, you shouldn't see it. If you're a fan of pre-codes, you don't want to hear about that. You want to hear it from somebody who knows what they're talking about. Alright, Silent Lives. I brought this one because this one I took to the beach one summer when I was in high school, and it totally opened my eyes to some silent movies, and it talks a lot about people that you've heard of. So if if you maybe want to dive more into silent films but you are familiar with the names, this one gives little biographies about people. So I think there's 100 in here. Yep. Alright, speaking of silent people, Wallace Reid. So I recommend this one just because it's so tough to read about Wallace Reid, to find things about Wallace Reid. So actually having a big book that dives all into his life, all into his roles, and all about, like, it talks a lot about his films. Like, it gives, like, what his movies are about, movies that are lost, and that you are going to be really upset because you're going to want to see them and you're not going to be able to, but I think he's really important to know about. It talks about obviously his death and his addiction to drugs. It also talks about how big he was at the time, because since a lot of his movies are lost, I feel that his cinema legacy is sadly a good bit lost. But it's nice to know about him and know how big he was in his day. More silent people. I have a lot of silent books on silent people. Roman Navarro. Because I got a lot of these in high school, and I was super big into silent movies in high school. I brought up Roman Navarro's book to show off because he's my favorite actor, and I also, I was going to bring up my favorite actress's book, Myrna Loy, The Only Good Girl in Hollywood, but I wanted to bring up Roman because I think it's really nice to look into his life, and because he was very, while he was gay and most people knew about it, he also he did keep it to himself, so I feel like he's not super outlandish with it. Like, I mean, at least compared to William Haynes and people like that, people who were very, very open about it. Roman was just much more personal. So it's nice to read about his life and know about, understandably, and know about, like, the oppression he went through and how, but also what you get to know about Roman is how close he was with a lot of his co-stars and his directors, and he's in general a pretty, for the most part, he was pretty nice. So it's nice reading about his actors liking to work with him. Another big one, Douglas Fairbanks. Again, I like these really big books that have really nice pictures and nice descriptions of the movies that he did and Doug's personal life. Now, Doug's also very interesting to read about because he was very athletic and he was very boisterous, so he's just a fun person to read about. So, another big one. This one, Greta Garbo, Cinematic Legacy. Vera did this one. There's also a nice big book that you can get about Garbo's, like, screen image and her clothes and stuff, which we also have.
Vera does lovely big books.
Yeah. Yeah, Vera does really nice big books. Now, in his descriptions of her life, I'm pretty sure he does take some liberties, but he does some things that you wonder how, like, oh, is that really what her life was like? But also, she was mysterious, so you kind of have to, I feel, take some things like that. But this one, more so than most of the books I've read about Garbo, gives a good detail into what she was like, because she was very private. Alright, I recommend this one 100%. Of Mice and Magic, A History of American Animated Cartoons by Leonard Maltin. This one is a must, because if you want to learn about cartoons, or just if you are interested, because I didn't know a whole lot about cartoons when I got this. I grew up watching, like, the Looney Tunes and Disney and stuff. But this one definitely gives a big view into them. You're gonna, nice filmographies in the back. You're definitely going to want to watch as many as you can. And it taught me, like, pretty much everything I know about cartoons. Alright, and this one's from both of us. Speaking of Leonard Maltin, this one is The Motherlode. It's Leonard Maltin's classic movie guide, and I'm sure pretty much all of you have this. They're beaten up, and we underline in them, but I mean, it's definitely by far a film lover's Bible, because it has reviews, you can keep track of all the movies you watch in it. It's just really great. Alright,
my turn.
Okay. First one I'm going to start out with is a famous one, Lulu in Hollywood by Louise Brooks. Virginia got this for me actually when she was in Prague, in an English bookshop, because you never really find it around here. Louise Brooks writes essays about her own career, and one's about Humphrey Bogart, W.C. Fields, people she knew personally, so it's really interesting hearing, like, people, who actually were there, like, who knows Bogart, who knows W.C. Fields, to talk about who they really are. Next one is Robert Wagner's first book. I have all his books, and I love them. He's really funny, and it's really great just hearing about the people he worked with, because he is right forward about what he thought about people. He doesn't try to say, like, oh, I liked everyone, which I like. I actually like hearing little tidbits, and he was friends with lots of different people too, so that's nice. This one is one of my biggest inspirations ever. There's no cover on it. We got it at an antique store in Frederick, Maryland. It's called They Had Faces Then. And it talks about big actresses of the 30s, alphabetically. This is my gold mine. This helped me study actresses' lives, study their roles, like who to really watch for. I recommend this to anyone if you can find it. This one's really beat up. This is my first book I ever got on old movies. I was like 15. It's Jean Basinger. She did The Star Machine, which is all about the Hollywood system. It was the first, like I said, it was the first book I ever read about this. I couldn't put it down. This really taught me so much. It made me want to read more and more. So, I highly recommend this, and she has a lot of interesting books, but this one means just so much to me for sentimental reasons. This one is on my hubby, no, my favorite guy, Douglas Fairbanks Jr., The Salad Days. He talks about his life up to when he was about 30 before he went into World War II. And it's a big book. There are so many stories in this, which I loved, because he just knew so many interesting people. He talks about his friendship with them, his relationship with them, and that was really interesting. It's really funny, lots of funny stories, and I liked hearing about his relationship with his dad. Not a great relationship. Wheeler and Woolsey, my favorite comedy team. I also have Dorothy Lee's book, which I also highly recommend. This one is more of just talking about each of their films individually, talking about what's going on behind the scenes, what each film offers, what people thought at the time, how well do they hold up now, their careers away from each other. So this one really is just very interesting to me if you love reading about films one by one and the people that they worked with. And once again, I highly recommend Dorothy Lee's as well. Okay, next one's another Vera one, the one I picked for him. This one's on Irving Thalberg. He's my favorite producer and mogul, bar none. This one is incredibly interesting. Irving Thalberg is just a very interesting man. And he was married to my favorite actress, so all the more reason to like it. So yeah, there they are. So yeah, I just love reading about him. I'll read like anything about him, and this is like one of the most complete books on him, just his whole entire life. Because most books are just really about him in Hollywood too. Another one of my biggest inspirations, which really inspired me for my underrated actor posts I would do, Anthony Side's Silent Players. That's when he talks about people he's interviewed, his conversations with them. And some of them are people he's never met, but he interviewed people who knew them because they're dead or something. But it's incredibly entertaining seeing what people have to say about each other. And so, yeah, this one is a big one. It's not like incredibly in-depth, obviously. It's just really quick tidbits of interviews, but I recommend it to anyone who loves silent films and loves learning about the actors that made them. This one doesn't have a cover either, but it's amazing and you should get it. It's Dickie Moore's book, Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, but Don't Have Sex or Take the Car. And he interviews so many child stars like himself. He doesn't talk just about his experience. He talks about like everybody who he interviewed, and it's divided into different stages of their lives, different subjects, like our pay and what happened to it. This is when they talk about what they were paid for the movies. Did their parents take it? So there's so many child stars who were interviewed for this book. If you love child stars, totally pick this up. This one's a big one. Found it in Jim Thorpe, actually. Jean Howard's Hollywood. I knew about Jean Howard because I read a book, Mayer and Thalberg, where it talked about her. She's the one who Mayer proposed to, even though she had no idea he was going to do that. And she said no. She married Charlie Feldman because she was in love with him. A good choice. And this is about her friends. She became a photographer, and these are just the photos she took at parties. And there are so many famous people in here, and she gives little tidbits about taking the picture, what the people in it meant to her. And it really is just such a glimpse into the Hollywood party life, which is a lot of fun, seeing your favorite actors at parties. And is this the last one? Yeah. My favorite actor, John Gilbert. And who better to tell his story than his daughter, who spent a lot of her life trying to figure out what really happened to him. Why did his career suddenly go down? Because his voice was actually just fine, despite what you hear from people. Clearly there was some shady dealings around here. And so this one I just love because he's my favorite actor. And I love hearing what people have to say about him. Like, any tidbit I read about him, I love reading. And you really get to see who he was as a man. He had such a hard life, and this really does show it, like, up to the time with his awful mother. Okay, so those were some of the books that we wanted to show that have influenced us and mean a lot to us.
Bye.
Bye.